Nandipa Magudumana's 65-year-old father, Zolile Zekeleni, and former G4S security company employee Senoe Machwara have been charged with murder, fraud and defeating the ends of justice. The two appeared in the Bloemfontein Magistrates Court this morning. Now they stand accused of playing a role in rapist and murderer Thabo Beste's escape from the Mangaung Correctional Centre in May last year. eNCA senior reporter Silindelo Masikane was in court today, and she joins me now from Bloemfontein. So, Slee, talk to us about exactly what happened in court today and more details on what the two men have been charged with.
Sally, it was quite a brief appearance in the Bloemfontein Magistrates Court this morning for two men who have been implicated, I guess, in what South Africa can call the Great Escape. That is the escape of Thabo Beste back on the 3rd of May 2022. The state seems to believe that the two men that we saw in the dock today form part of several people who played a role in ensuring that Beste escaped from the Mangaung Correctional Centre. We've heard from officials like the acting National Correctional Services Commissioner about just how calculated this particular escape was, and just how many role players have purported to have played a role. This is just, I think, the beginning of many arrests that we're going to see in this matter, and we know, of course, that there are several investigations taking place. And this morning what we saw was Machwara as well as Zekeleni in the dock. The gallery as well was quite full. There was quite a heavy police presence as well in the courtroom. I did notice a couple of family members from both the accused. At first, Nandipa's father actually tried to hide himself, but I think at some point he did see that the exercise was quite futile. He eventually put down his jersey, and proceedings began with the prosecutor then presenting the docket to the magistrate, reading out the charges and stating that an agreement had been reached between the two parties in terms of postponing proceedings for today. Let's take a listen.
Yes, the two accused appeared before the Bloemfontein Magistrate Court today, and the request from prosecution was that the matter be postponed until next week Monday, which is the 17th of April, because we don't have the bail information of the two accused. So possibly Monday will proceed with bail application depending on the bail information that we're going to get in respect of the two accused.
Can you clarify where they're going to be held?
One accused, which is accused number one, Senoe Machwara, will be outside the town of Bloemfontein, because the reason for that was that he's a former employee of the correctional facility here in Bloemfontein. So the request was that to avoid him interfering with the investigation, let's make a request that he be placed at a correctional facility outside Bloemfontein. So it's only accused number 2 who will be placed at the correctional facility here in Bloemfontein.
Very interesting. So tell us a little bit more about this murder charge. Obviously it relates to the burnt body of the man found in Beste's cell. There are signs that he had been murdered, but it's not clear who murdered him. Feasibly it could have been taken from a morgue nearby and just placed in the cell. We simply don't know. So I find it quite interesting that the state has already charged these two men with that murder. What more did you find out about it?
Yeah, there's been quite interesting reaction around that particular murder charge, and I did actually put it to the NPA to say exactly what evidence do you have pertaining to the fact that these two men in the dock had something to do with how that body was essentially killed. We were all speculating around the fact that they had something to do with the placing of the body inside the cell, but this charge of murder certainly puts a new spin on things, because a lot of the reports and what we've been hearing from many of our sources was the fact that this body may have been sourced from a morgue and was already dead by the time it was in the prison, as well as the fact that it's unclear at this point whether law enforcement has even been able to identify who this particular person is, because we do know that the body was burnt beyond recognition during that particular fire. So the NPA is still keeping their cards very close to their chest, not really wanting to reveal too much around the evidence they have before them, but still maintaining that we're still probably going to see many more arrests in this matter, and that the two are going to be facing perhaps even more charges. But as it stands, it's that murder charge, defeating the ends of justice, arson, as well as fraud. Let's take a listen to the NPA spokesperson once more with regards to that murder charge.
They are currently facing four charges. The count of murder comes from the evidence that we got that there was a body that was burnt inside the holding cell, where in one of the holding cells at the correctional facility. That is where the issue of a count of murder is coming from. The evidence that we have at the moment points to the two accused being involved in the assistance of the escape of an inmate at a correctional facility in Mangaung prison. But we're not ruling out the possibility of more people being involved. So we can also not rule out the possibility of more people being arrested. But the evidence that is before the prosecution at the moment links to the two accused to all the charges, all 5 charges that were that they're currently facing.
All right, so that matter is back in court on the 17th of April. We do know the police are expecting to make more arrests, and of course we are awaiting the return from Tanzania of Thabo Bester and Dr. Nandipa Mugurumana. It will be very interesting to see when exactly they come back and what charges they will be facing. Thank you so much for that update live from Bloemfontein. eNCA senior reporter Silindelo Masikane.